All right, y'all, I want to welcome you to the call. It is December the 17th. I am live in Pennsylvania, Birmingham, Pennsylvania. So we want to welcome the doctors to the call and also Bill and Dr. Prasad, but we're going to let Jeff read the FDA disclaimer first.
All right, if you'll just follow along with me, I'm going to pull the words up onto the screen. And just these statements and comments have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This information is solely for educational purposes only and includes recent advances in research on micronutrients. Engage, the micronutrient company, does not claim that our products diagnose, treat, cure, heal, or prevent any disease or injury. However, Engage's products are formulated to address nutritional deficiencies and supply the body with the required nutrients. It is important to note that nothing here is meant to be a substitute for professional medical treatment or a consultation with your primary healthcare provider. So that having been taken care of, Beth, I'm going to turn it back to you to make the introductions for the doctors.
All right. Thank you all for attending this call tonight. We're excited to have everybody on the call tonight. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Jean Ronel Corbier. He is a board certified pediatric neurologist and integrative pediatrician. He's a national speaker, author, and the medical director of Brain Restoration Clinic with a focus on brain health. He specializes in helping children and adults recover from neurological conditions. Dr. Paul Corbier, which is his twin brother, is a board certified internist with experience in community health, hospice care, drug counseling, and correctional medicine. He's currently the chief medical officer at the Brain Restoration Clinic, working alongside his twin brother. We also have Bill Bantz, a former real estate investor, IT professional. After realizing his true calling, he became a wellness coach and natural health practitioner. He is passionate about helping people achieve their health goals. He uses his skills to guide others on their wellness journey with certifications in natural wellness, health coaching, and aromatherapy. He is dedicated to providing a personalized support and resource. Also, we'd like to introduce Dr. Prasad. Dr. Prasad is the first radiation biologist in the world to get a PhD in 1963. He also discovered the anti-cancer potency of vitamin E succinate. He discovered that butyric acid, the small fatty acid formed by fermentation of fibers in the gut, is an anti-cancer agent. He's also written 33 books. He's got a few more coming out shortly. And he has done many peer-reviewed papers, and we're excited to have y'all. So I'm going to turn the call over to y'all now.
Go ahead, Cormier brothers.
Great.
Now we don't hear you at all. Sorry, guys. I know we had you messing around with your microphone right before we started. We don't hear anything, even though you are technically unmuted. Something, go into your settings. Go into your settings down there where the microphone is.
Yes, and let me see.
There we go. There we go.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yes, sounds good.
All right. Okay. Yes, I was thanking everyone, and starting with you, Jeff and Beth, and we're happy to have Dr. Prasad here. We're going to ask him a few questions after our talk. And as I was trying to say, sorry about our microphone problems, is that we want this to be very informative. Let's have a conversation. And perhaps before I do, it's not just us here at the Brain Restoration Clinic, my brother Bill and I, but we're a whole team, and some people have asked to see the other members. So without trying to put anyone on the spot, if some of our BRC team wants to show themselves, like Yvonne Har, Jackie Sitton, Yanta, Noel, all of you, if you're there, Tiff, I thought I saw you there, Glacienne. Okay, there we are. So we have our team here, and our whole outlook is to serve our community the best we can. And we certainly want to talk about the role of micronutrients in our health. And today we're going to focus on mental health. So I'm going to have, we're going to show a PowerPoint just to stay on point and to be concise. And so the title, if we were to give a title to this, is Finding Calm in Chaos, and really come up with effective solutions for stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay, we do live in a chaotic setting, and we need to try to make sense of it all. So what we're going to do is I'll start and give an overview of mental health. And keep in mind that there are almost 20 distinct disorders when dealing with anxiety, depression, and these types of disorders, according to the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorder, 5th edition. Of course, there are newer and newer editions since there are more and more labels to these illnesses there. Then my brother will take it a notch up as he delves into brain waves and something fascinating called neuromodulation. And Bill will take it away with lifestyle modifications and recommendations, practical things that we want you to go home with before the new year. And then we will be prepared to ask Dr. Prasad important questions, and that'll reassure us that there is a better way to do things in a more natural way. So with that said, let me just share with you just a few things to think about. First, let me ask you a rhetorical question. Do some of you have some irritability? Be honest. Do you get irritable? Have a short fuse? Anger? How about fatigue? Does your energy peter off as the day goes by? How about muscle pain? Now, I know we're talking about emotional issues, mental issues, but what about pain? Is there an association? What about digestive troubles? Difficulty sleeping? Maybe we should have a conversation about that. So all these things may be telltale signs that something could be wrong in terms of mental illness. So let's look at a couple statistics that gets me to think about how serious this thing is. So 1 in 5 adults in the US experience some form of mental illness every year. So that's over 66 million people suffering from some mental illness. That's not good news. Almost 20 adults have some form of anxiety disorders. There's at least 11 labels of different types of anxiety disorders, 40 million. 8.4 adults are impacted by depression. 8.4% of adults, 21 million folks, are impacted by depression annually. Now, I've been tracking this for some time, and it seems like every couple years or so, the number increases. Over 30% of our young folks, ages 18 to 25, report some symptoms of either anxiety or depression or both. And a subset of those actually harbor suicidal thoughts and ideation. That's not good. And a whopping 75% of the US adult population report experiencing not just stress, but moderate to high level of stress in the past month. Interestingly enough, speaking about all the stress reported in the last few years, there's been this label called the decade of stress. And do you know what decade that was? That was back in the 1980s, before the year 2000. And since then, the pace of modern life and living has just accelerated. So today it's almost impractical. It's debilitating, but a real issue. And depression itself is a leading cause of disability globally and in the US. So these are actually depressing statistics. So stress, what is stress? Just by way of definition, it's the body's physical, emotional, and mental response to any demand, challenge, or change. And we go through that all the time. And so it's your whole being that could be consumed in stress if you're not careful. So it's not so much the demand or the challenge, but how you're equipped to respond to that demand or perceived issue. It doesn't even have to be a real issue, but sometimes we react to it. And if our body is constantly under stress and reacts to stress, then that can lead into what we define as anxiety, persistent, excessive worries that don't go away, even in the absence of the stressor itself. Once removed, our body can still be under stress. And depression itself let's go back a little bit, is very common, as we said, very serious mood disorder characterized by persistent feelings of sadness. How about emptiness? How many of us feel empty, lack of fulfillment, or even loss of interest in activities that should be exciting, enjoyable, pleasurable? But if you have that loss of interest, we call that anhedonia. And if that lasts for more than a couple weeks or so, then you can begin to fit the definition of depression. So very common conditions. And we're going to talk about simple yet sensible solutions to tackle all of these. Now, before I turn it over to my brother, let me just say one word about my own irrational fear and how I barely escaped the notion of suffering from anxiety and panic attacks. I'm cool as a cucumber today, but I used to harbor fear, in fact, an irrational fear. And in fact, what it was is that I used to be afraid of butterflies. Now, can you imagine that, being afraid of butterflies, despite their delicate beauty? I was paralyzed when I saw beautiful butterflies nearby. And one night in the quiet of my room, I actually felt something land on my shoulder. And you can't imagine the fear that I felt to feel this sensation on my shoulder. And my brain immediately cried, butterfly, butterfly. And I was just 8 years old when the fight or flight response kicked in high gear. And with almost Olympic response and force, I found myself launching all the way up to nearly up to the ceiling and back. That was an impressive feat. And of course, I had to face my fears and see if that creature was displaced. But when I took a close look there on my shoulder there, all it was a tiny safety pin. All of that for safety pin. And there I cured my anxiety. I confronted that irrational fear. Now, what happened? Let's go on. Just one more thing that I'll say. So our brain, deep in our brain, we have this little tiny fear processor called in the amygdala, in the brain's amygdala, that sounds the alarm. So very efficient system. And then once that alarm, in my case, it was a butterfly, it then hands the emergency situation over to the hypothalamus. That's the crisis manager of our body. And then the hypothalamus flips the switch onto the sympathetic nervous system. And then we have that rush of adrenaline and cortisol, so-called stress hormones, that flood our bloodstream. Our heart pounds. We breathe fast to get all that oxygen and blood into the muscles. We divert the blood. We halt to conserve energy. The blood goes away from digestion, from the gut, and goes to the muscles to allow us to fight or flee. Sometimes we freeze as well. We have that surge in our bloodstream, and all these things happen. But when we find out that it was just a butterfly or the proverbial bear that was chasing us, we really ought to be able to relax, unwind, breathe a little more calmly. We need not have palpitations. The muscles need not be tightened anymore, or that spasm. We should be able to then fall asleep. But a lot of us have that ongoing fear, and that's the anxiety that we have to fight against. So I'm thankful and happy to report that I'm no longer afraid of butterflies. I faced depression too in the past, so that was defeated too, thank God. So we're going to share with you very practical advice on how to really conquer some of these mental illnesses and ailments. So with that said, I'm going to switch it and pass it over to my brother.
All right. Well, we're going to change gears a little bit, and instead of a lecture, we're going to take a quiz. How many people like taking quizzes? Well, I don't know about you. I did like to take a lot of quizzes when I was studying in school, but Now I'm giving the quiz, so I don't. No. All right. So is everyone ready for the quiz? I expect all A's, but let's go. All right, so question 1. And by the way, my quiz, just to give you a little heads up, pertains to brainwave activity, because when we talk about mental health, when we talk about sleep, when we talk about wakefulness, all of these things are predicated on particular brain waves, which are neural oscillations, changes detected by the cortical layer of the brain by a machine called an EEG, electroencephalogram. So let's talk a little bit about brain waves. So my first question is, which of the following brain waves is most commonly, or say are most commonly associated with a relaxed, wakeful state and reduced stress level? Which of the following brain waves are most commonly associated with a relaxed, wakeful state and reduced stress levels? A, is it delta waves? B, theta waves? C, alpha waves? Or D, beta waves? All right, do you have the answer? Well, let's see. It's alpha waves. So alpha waves, they're linked to relaxation. So when we think of a relaxed state and also stress reduction, we're really thinking of alpha waves. But when we are in this alpha state, if you will, even though we're relaxed, we're also awake. We're awake but relaxed and calm. So that's what we call alpha waves. All right, are we ready for the next quiz? Well, right before that, let me just state that studies show that if we have decreased alpha wave activity in the left frontal cortex, that can be associated with depressive symptoms. And so the brain waves are important because if we have an increase or decrease, and depending on the area, that can affect our mental health. All right, so let's go to the next question. Question 2. What brainwave activity is linked to creativity and deep relaxation? I don't know about you, but these are two things I like, right, Dr. Prasad? We like to be creative, come up with new thoughts. Yeah. And because there's a lot of work in life, I like to be able to relax, right? Deep relaxation. So is it A, delta waves, B, theta waves, C, alpha waves, D, beta waves? Which one is associated with creativity and deep relaxation? Well, if you said theta waves, you're correct. If you said anything else, then that's not correct. So theta waves are present during light sleep or deep relaxation. I should say actually deep sleep as well, and associated with creativity and intuition. And so what happens then if we have a reduced theta wave activity? Well, then we may not be able to relax as well, and we may even have emotional regulation. As we go through this quiz and we look at the different brain waves, the question we should be asking ourselves is there a way to regulate our brainwave activity? So for example, if we want to enter a deep sleep state and that we need that delta wave, is there a way to help induce that? My brother mentioned that I would talk about neuromodulation. I'm just going to very briefly state that there are non-invasive ways to influence these brainwave activities through sound, including music, through light, through magnetic waves, even through electrical impulses. So we call that neuromodulation. All right, are you ready for the next question? Question 3, which brain wave is associated with high-level information processing and cognitive functioning? Is it A, gamma waves, B, theta waves, C, beta waves, D, delta waves? Which one? Well, if you said gamma waves, then that's correct. So gamma waves are indeed involved with higher cognitive functions and fast information processing. And so studies have shown that if you disrupt gamma rhythms, that can actually lead to cognitive problems, challenges, and increased stress responses. So gamma waves are very important for the way the brain functions overall. All right, next question. I hope everyone is acing this so far. Which Well, we did this already. I'm not sure why. Let's see. Okay, well, this is a closer question. Which brainwave is dominant during active thinking and problem solving? The last question was on information processing high level, but this one is just active thinking and problem solving, and that's beta waves. So beta waves are linked to alertness and focus, but if you have too much beta waves, then that can lead to anxiety. All right, so if you have excessive beta activity or elevated beta activity, it leads to a rut-like thinking pattern, and that can lead to anxiety and depression. So you see that as there's a change in brainwave pattern, as you deviate from normality, then you can have various types of mental illness. Looks like my questions have jumped out of sequence, but that's okay. Question 6, which brainwave type is associated with deep restorative sleep? Something that we would all like to have, deep restorative sleep. Is it A, alpha waves, B, theta waves, D, delta waves, D, gamma waves? If you chose theta waves, you're wrong. It's actually D, delta waves. So delta waves occur during deep sleep, dreamless sleep, not when we're dreaming, but deep restorative sleep. And that's important for physical and mental restoration. And so delta waves, among all the waves, are the slowest brain waves, but if they're disrupted, then our sleep as well can be disrupted, and we may have chronic stress and mood disorders. And again, with techniques like neuromodulation and other interventions, we can get those brain waves properly regulated. All right, I think we're nearing the end of our quiz, and I hope everyone did very well on the quiz so far. But the 7th question is, chronic stress can lead to which of the following changes in the brain? A, increase prefrontal cortex activity, or B, reduced amygdala activity, C, shrinkage of the hippocampus, D, improved connectivity in the limbic system. Which one is associated with chronic stress? Well, the answer is C, shrinkage of the hippocampus. So prolonged stress is very damaging to the body and the brain. It can cause a reduction in hippocampal volume, impair memory and emotional regulation through something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And so we need to do everything we can to avoid chronic stress, although we do live in a stressful world. So cortisol, chronic elevation of this can damage brain regions like the hippocampus, impairing memory and emotional regulation. So to summarize the brainwave activity, you can see that there are 5 different distinct brainwave patterns: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Starting with delta, which are the slower waves, then theta, a little faster, but still slow. Alpha, kind of in the middle, kind of awake, relaxed. Beta, where you're thinking actively, problem solving, so 13 to 30 hertz. And then the fastest gamma waves, 30 to 100, where there's high level of information processing. All of these are important. And although delta, for example, occurs predominantly during deep sleep, you may have some delta when you're awake as well. And let's say daydreaming, theta waves, well, as theta waves, alpha can be in different parts of different states. And so, for example, if you're in deep sleep, you don't want to have excess alpha waves because that can disturb your sleep. You do not want to have excess alpha waves either. So if you have a deficiency or excess of these waves, that can then, that imbalance lead to disease states. And so to conclude, I'd like to read this for you. Let me see, sorry, we jumped ahead here. So the brain is like an orchestra, and brain waves are its music. When we nurture our mental health, we ensure that every note, from the calm restorative delta waves to the focused productive beta waves, and I will add everything in between, plays in harmony. As the great neuroscientist Santiago Ramon Cajal said, every man can, if he so desires, become the sculptor of his own brain. Isn't that nice? We can sculpt our own brain. So I encourage everyone to remember that through mindfulness, rest, and care, you're not just managing stress, you're conducting the symphony of your mind. And how exactly do we conduct this symphony? What are the details? And for that, I'm going to then turn it over to Bill.
Okay, that's me then. Share this. All right. Yeah, I'm assuming you're seeing my screen okay, guys. Tell me if you're not. I'm pretty sure you are. All right, so we welcome everybody. Just glad to have everybody with us tonight. Hope you're finding some information interesting about this. If you were on our last call or two, you know who I am. My name is Bill. They call me Bill or Bill J. I'm a natural wellness practitioner and the chief operating officer at Brain Restoration Clinic. And, you know, with the doctor's presentations about sort of what is stress, what is depression, what's anxiety, what happens in the brain during anxious and non-anxious states and things like that. I trust everybody found some new information in that. I know I did. But I'm always the guy who asks, okay, so what? Then what do you do with that, right? How do we fix that? What do we do about it? So I'm going to try to bring it down to somewhere the rubber meets the road and hit some lifestyle alternatives, lifestyle things that will help us to manage stress, anxiety, and depression. Because balancing mood and reducing anxiety, it affects our entire being, our physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. All of our well-being is affected. And reducing anxiety and depression and stress and things positively impacts that. So what are some lifestyle interventions that can help us do this, balance our mood and reduce anxiety and stress? Well, we've talked about this before. We talked about it last time, but we'll hit it again. Diet is really important. If you're not feeding your body the right things, your body is not likely to perform to its optimal standard. So you want to make sure you eat a good diet. The foundation for optimal wellness is our food, and Hippocrates said it 2,400 years ago, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And Dr. Mark Hyman said it less than 2,400 years ago, but it's still no less true. Food is medicine. So feed your body the right things. What should we feed it? Well, plant-rich foods, lots of veggies, some fruits. We should feed it healthy fats, healthy, sustainably raised, wild-caught meats, fish, eggs, things like that. Lower glycemic carbohydrates, mostly from veggies and some fruits, and plenty of high-quality filtered fluoride-free water. You want to be hydrated very well. What should we not eat? This is probably preaching to the choir here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Highly processed foods, anything with a list a mile long of ingredients is probably not ideal. Refined grains, grains that are refined through processing in plants, wheat and corn especially. Lots of sugar and sugar-like substances, especially high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. We want to steer away from those, things like saccharin, sucralose, and HK. And then refined oils and fats like soybean, corn, canola, and other trans fats. None of those are really ideal for our body. We can balance our mood and reduce anxiety with sleep, good quality sleep. We need an appropriate quality and quantity of sleep because it's not just about quality. Our bodies do need at least some generally minimum recommended amount. General daily recommendation for adults is 7 to 9 hours. Children and youth might need a bit more. And this is actual sleep time, not just time spent in bed. So if you're laying there for 9 hours, but you're only sleeping for 4 or 5, that's not the best sleep. Dr. Matthew Walker, he's a sleep expert at UC Berkeley. And he said, when sleep is abundant, minds flourish, and when it isn't, they don't. Right? Pretty straightforward. We've probably all experienced if we haven't had good sleep for a period of a few days, we may not be at our cognitive best. How can we foster good sleep? Well, here are some good ways. Get adequate sunlight during the day. Our bodies were made to follow the circadian rhythm of the earth and the sun. We're supposed to be awake during the day and asleep at night. So get adequate sunlight during the day. It'll help your body produce the chemicals it needs, cortisol during the day, melatonin at night, those kind of things. Build a good sleep environment, a cool, dark room. Eliminate the sources of light. Those are all important. Avoid artificial blue light 1 to 2 hours before bed, as we all sit here on our computers at 8:30 at night here on the East Coast, right? But I'm wearing my blue blockers. I hope everybody else has got some blue blocking lenses in their spectacles here. Avoid EMFs while you're sleeping, especially. That's really ideal. You want to try to keep your bedroom an EMF-free place. Don't leave your phone there. Put it in airplane mode or shut it off. Turn off the EMFs. Stay away from your internet router, things like that. Ideally, don't do strenuous exercise within 6 hours of bed. So like a big, strong, heavy workout at the gym 6 hours before bed. It amps you up, so it's harder to wind down at bedtime. And don't eat within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime. If your body has to digest a whole lot while you're sleeping, it doesn't have a lot of room for pushing itself toward great sleep. Keep a consistent sleep routine. Go to bed and wake up at about the same time each day, including the weekends. You can fudge it a little bit here and there, but ideally, if you keep a good sleep routine, you'll have better quality sleep. And then use a high quality sleep supplement if you need it. Sometimes we need a little sleep supplement to help us get a good quality of all the stages of sleep that we need. What else can we do? Breathing is really important. We can practice mindful breathing techniques. Good breathing, it helps with vagal nerve tone. And we talked about the vagus nerve last time, but that's your gut-brain communication. It improves heart rate variability, which improves our overall well-being and helps us to manage stress and anxiety and depression. Generally, with a few exceptions, we should be breathing through our nose, in through the nose and out through the mouth when we're doing mindful breath work. And there's reasons for that. Diaphragmatic breathing actually has been so helpful. It's actually often prescribed to PTSD sufferers. A lot of people in the military suffer from PTSD, and others will tell you that their physician or psychologist or psychiatrist has prescribed mindful deep breathing. It's that important. Here are some mindful breathing techniques. You can look them up if you want to try them on your own at some point, but simple deep breathing, basically an equal inhale and an exhale, in through the nose, out through the mouth, but nice and deep. Box breathing is something that is used for both mitigating stress in acute situations as well as balancing stress on the regular during the day, where you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold your breath for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, and you hold your breath at the bottom for a count of 4. That's box breathing, right? In a box, 4, 4, 4, 4. 4, 7, 8 breathing is an alternative on that. This was something that's popularized by Dr. Weil from the Integrative Medicine School out in Arizona. That's basically breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 7, and breathe out for a count of 8. Maybe it's triangle breathing instead of box breathing. I don't know, but it's a 4, 7, 8 breath. And then alternate nostril breathing. This is actually a yogic technique, but it's where you pinch off one nostril and you breathe in through the non-pinched one. You hold it, you pinch that one off, you breathe out through the other nostril, and you alternate back and forth. So those are some mindful breathing techniques. What else can we do? Well, there's supplements and there's herbs and there's oils that can help us with relaxation. Some essential oils can often be useful for stress and anxiety. Things like lavender, melissa, and bergamot, neroli, chamomile, spikenard, vetiver, cedarwood, and sandalwood, and copaiba. Those are all anti-stress, if you will, anti-anxiety. They're relaxing. They're deep, woodsy, herby type things that help you relax. CBD is a phenomenal help with stress, anxiety, and sleep. It's an endocannabinoid balancer, and we won't talk too much about the endocannabinoid system tonight, but that has a host of functions in everything that your body does, including management of stress, anxiety, and depression. There are adaptogens, adaptogenic herbs like rhodiola, ashwagandha, tulsi, also known as holy basil, kava, magnolia bark, passion flower, valerian, and St. John's wort. These are all herbs and adaptogens that can help with stress, anxiety, and sleep. And then there's sort of your run-of-the-mill supplements, things like magnesium glycinate and GABA, L-theanine, 5-HTP, melatonin, and tryptophan. So these are all things that can be useful. Of course, we always say it's good to check with a qualified practitioner before you use them because you want to make sure they're right for you. But these are things that are generally useful in our managing stress, anxiety, depression, and helping with our sleep. Exercise is really important. Get regular daily exercise because we probably all know that endorphins help our mood. When you exercise and you get that exerciser's high or the runner's high, that's endorphins, and those are helping to boost you on a daily basis. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to the gym every day. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. A good exercise practice, I like what endurance athlete and author Mark Sisson says. He says, run really fast every once in a while. So like sprint on and off for maybe 10 minutes a time a week. And lift heavy things 2 or 3 times a week, like weight training, resistance training, body weight training, things like that. Building muscular and bone strength helps with our bodies and our minds. And then move often at a slow pace. So walking, hiking, gentle cycling, do that a lot every day. Rebounding is really good. Gentle bouncing on a trampoline is actually good exercise, and it's good for detox. It moves fluid through the lymph pathways and helps you detox. Park further away from the store and walk further if you can, right? Park in the parking spot further up and take the stairs instead of the elevator or escalators. If you can do that, That'll help you. Whatever you choose to do, pick exercises that you'll do regularly. And then spiritual disciplines are always useful. Things like practicing gratitude. What are you thankful for each day? Meditate, read scripture, and pray. These are all things that can help us balance our mood and reduce anxiety. And building healthy relationships with other people. I think this is sometimes, this is often like understated, but it really shouldn't be. Social isolation is not a recipe for good health. It really isn't. I think we all can say that we saw the effects of that a few years ago for a couple of years, and it didn't really help anybody. So social isolation is not really good. Reduce the amount of time you spend on your technical devices, smartphones and computers and TVs, and spend some time with family or close friends. Enjoy each other's company. If you've heard of oxytocin before, oxytocin is both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. It's called the love hormone or the bonding hormone, right? It attaches us to other people. But you can't experience and benefit oxytocin without physical relationship. You need to be in contact with other people. But the great news is the body has an amazing capacity to heal when it's given the right inputs. So to the extent it's within your control, give it what it wants and see if you don't begin to thrive. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will turn it back over to the doctors.
Right. Thank you, Bill. So we think that lifestyle modification is always important. So Bill gave us some very practical advice, whereas my brother talked about brainwave activities that could actually also be modulated. And now we'd like to ask Dr. Prasad some questions that I think will serve us well, practical type questions. We all want to have a deeper understanding of micronutrients. And Bill touched on that. We would like to know more about how could the micronutrients possibly help with mental health? Are there particular supplements, Dr. Prasad, that you could speak on that could help us understand how these can help us, maybe with anxiety, stress?
Yeah, I think that, the lifestyle changes was excellent presentation. I'm sure you two presented about brainwave. And so you can see these are all complex procedure, but the suggestions is so valuable of lifestyle changes. But problem is with that one, the human behavior has been difficult to change. We have been talking about many of these things, not everything that the bill presented it, but we have been talking about the lifestyle changes, environmental risk factor for ages. But risk of the chronic diseases, including mental, is increasing. Obviously, it is not the fault of the diet, but people are not following. So what is this second alternative? But all the stressors that we discuss, external stressor, diet, lifestyle, and environmental, I define them as external stressor, which is very important to reduce them. And we always try to educate public as much as possible, try to reduce even 10, 20%. That's very, very important. But the real thing is that question is, why external stressor is so important? Diet, because your health. But what they do if you don't do it? Well, if you don't do that, don't follow the guideline that Bill presented, then your body has a increased oxidative stress and inflammation. And let us see how these things affect your system neurologically. First, the increased oxidative stress occurs first. It is the earliest changes induced by external stressor, is increase in free radical. Then it damages cells. And if the cell cannot repair itself, then chronic inflammation sets in motion. So now these are two culprits, and they're working together to alter further. For example, another thing that is important to understand during aging process, you also have a poor immune function during aging. You have to improve that one. You also have a, for example, as you grow older and older, then you have other kind of, sometimes older people have infrequent loss of memory. In other words, I don't remember the name, and after 10 minutes, I remember the name. And so these things, the older people, and then eventually they develop a disease, neurological, Alzheimer, Parkinson's disease, and so on. But I will focus on Alzheimer today. How? So the question is how oxidative stress does it? Well, oxidative stress, what it does, as you know, beta amyloid it is a small peptide, it has been linked with the initiation and progression of Alzheimer's disease. And how beta amyloid acts? It generates free radicals. So you can see that oxidative stress is involved even in the action. So finally, the neuron gets killed. So question is, how do you control this? The first, why so much production of beta amyloid? The reason is because the gamma secretase activity, there is one protein called APP, amyloid precursor protein. That's a large molecule, large protein. And what gamma secretase enzyme does, it splits into a smaller peptide called beta amyloid. So why, as you grow older, increases the gamma secretase activity? Oxidative stress increases gamma secretase activity, which then will produce more and more beta amyloid peptides. An increased oxidative stress, you also can damage synapse. It's very membranous structure. As you know, membranous structure is easily damaged. When they damage synapse, they messed up the communication, and that causes the infrequent memory loss that you see in older individuals. That doesn't mean they will develop Alzheimer's, but that's the start. And eventually, many of them could develop Alzheimer's as well. And so the question is, you can see how much oxidative stress involved. Also, another thing is the hyperphosphorylation of tau protein, which is very also important. And they also participate in progression of this. And increased oxidative stress also cause hyperphosphorylation of tau protein. So the question is how you do it. Well, then you are very simple. You reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. How do you do it? Micronutrients. We have tested a lot of data, human and animal, that reduces oxidative stress. So that's one way of dealing with the chronic diseases. No matter what kind of chronic diseases it is, you have to reduce these two things. And second thing is that we have to concern about is intestinal dysbiosis. Intestinal dysbiosis means the number of harmful bacteria has increased in your gut, and number of beneficial bacteria has decreased. We call them intestinal dysbiosis. And intestinal dysbiosis start producing a lot of toxic chemicals, including pro-inflammatory cytokine, which can damage all your organs. So many literature has published information there. Many papers are published, including I have published, showing that intestinal dysbiosis participate in the initiation and progression of all human chronic diseases, including mental issues. Participate and progression. Not only that, many medications that deals with these kind of diseases, intestinal dysbiosis interfere with their good effect on your disease process. And so you can see that, and current treatment, as you know, of mental disorder is symptoms, not the causes of the disease. Here we are discussing the causes of the disease, how you can prevent it. And if you are taking some medication, then it is okay. It will improve their efficacy, and maybe after a while you don't have to take medication. But if you are taking medication, there is no interaction which is adverse if you combine with the mental disease medication and micronutrient. So intestinal dysbiosis is very important. Then we were discussing about collagen peptides. This is another very central issue for mental disorder. And I will show you clinically, they have shown case to be the case. As I mentioned many times, 30% of your total body protein is collagen. And collagen is present in every organ in your body. And one of the main functions of collagen is to maintain a structural integrity of all organs and therefore their function. Because the structure is very directly related to how well it can function. And so this is so, and this was demonstrated in a Alzheimer trial. clinical study. So the clinical trial was made, and they saw that, as you say, loss of collagen will cause shrinkage of the brain, and you were showing that shrinkage of the brain is one of the manifestations of mental disorders. And so they mentioned, yeah, there was a shrinkage of certain area of brain, especially the area of hypothalamus. And so then they put that 5 grams per day for 90 days of collagen peptides. And then again, they did MRI, they found that shrinkage has improved, and mental function also improved. So this is the first demonstration that collagen peptides is so important for brain function, maintaining the structural integrity of the brain and its function, not to function. So we always say you must take the core 4 is very important. So you can see that, and then we have also omega-3 fatty acid. This is considered essential fatty acid that our body does not make it. We rely totally on diet. If you are pure vegetarian, then you form what is called ALA, and then ALA conversion to DHA and EPA. Omega-3, the major component of omega-3 is called DHA and EPA. DHA is very important for brain function, and EPA is very important for heart. So the diet conversion is very slow. So therefore, the best thing is to have a omega-3 as a supplement to provide you sufficient amount. And as you know, membranous structure is very membranous. Your brain has very membranous structure. And 40% of the brain fatty acids is DHA, EPA, I mean the omega-3. DHA component of omega-3, 40%. You know how important it is for brain function. And therefore, it is important to provide, to improve your mental function, provide the enough DHA to your brain all the time, not a small amount. Because membrane is also damaged, easily damaged by membrane, oxidative stress. So, but they turn over, and if they have sufficient precursor, then you can handle very easily. And so, and then also as you grow older, it is not for younger people, but as you grow older, your production of digestive enzyme decreases, well-established phenomena. So what you do, even though you have take care of the intestinal dysbiosis by taking probiotics, but still you may not, intestine is still not very happy. You have to give them also digestive enzyme. So what you are losing when you grow older, you are supplementing with the digestive enzyme. Now intestinal is extremely happy, and it can do very good function. So that's why the core 4 plus digestive enzyme is very important. And another important thing is, and then I can answer the question. Another very important thing is the CBD, like mentioning to you. Anxiety, you mentioned depressions, and agitation. People have this behavior, even normally, and even in disease cases, they also aggravate it further. So why it happens? It happens because of stress. You mentioned stress. Stress releases a lot of cortisol, which is very damaging molecule, which increases inflammation. Turn all the inflammatory genes, and you are making a lot of inflammatory molecules. So it is bad. And so then what you do? Well, another thing is why your anxiety, serotonin level in your brain decreases. Dopamine level is not decreases as much, but still slightly decreases. And you have an increased activity of glutamate, increased production and release of glutamate. 3, these biochemical events occurring that is main responsible for all anxiety, depressions, and even fear in this case. So how do you take care of that? Well, first you take care of microdaily to reduce inflammation and so on. And also the CBD. CBD is the only agent which can also not only act as an antioxidant and anti-inflammation, but it also increases the serotonin level by 2 mechanisms. One, it increases the synthesis of serotonin in the serotonin neuron in the brain. Second, it prevents the reuptake of serotonin so that it doesn't get destroyed. And actually, there is a FDA drug available, which is called a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, FDA-approved drug for treat anxiety and depression. And this is in the market, and this all the time is recommended. And so, but they have toxicity. CBD has no toxicity. And so you can see that this is very important to increase the serotonin level. But also it increases slightly dopamine level as well by increasing the D2 receptor, stimulates it, and the dopamine increases. And dopamine increases, then you feel happy about it, relax. And third is it also reduces the production and release of the neurotoxic glutamate. Glutamate causes hyperactivity, agitation, all these things. CBD can reduce that. And you can see that with our program of Core 4, digestive enzyme, plus CBD can do a lot for your health, mental health, if you start it at a younger, at any time, really. Even Alzheimer patients who are taking the medication, even for them, it is very, very important.
So that's great. So we like the way you've explained things. First of all, I'm struck by the fact that the body is complex. So it's not just one thing. One has to respect the integrity and how we were designed, right? So
Exactly.
the
Nobody
brain.
does. No, we are the first one who are making this approach. You cannot just take care of oxidative stress and inflammation. You have to take care of intestinal dysbiosis. You have to take care of loss of collagen happening, loss of function of the omega-3. Omega-3 is fatty acid, and fatty acid is very easily damaged by free radicals. So you have to protect all these things at the same time. Otherwise, you will get some benefit, but not optimal.
And there's sleep too. Can you just review the role of sleep and how?
Yeah, sleep is
enhance
equally
our sleep.
important, because when you are restless, when you have anxiety, depression, collagen will help. But also there is sleep disorders that we mentioned in major issue in the US, not in the worldwide. And so we have developed a product in which we have added for example, well-known melatonin, which is used many people, but sometimes people that is not sufficient for sleep. So I added L-tryptophan that increases the serotonin level. This is a precursor of serotonin. So if your body is functioning good, then it will increase, but if the functioning is not very good, it is not going to increase serotonin level. So L-tryptophan is in combination with other products that we were discussing. And then we have also Tulsi and Ashwagandha, which are, used in Ayurvedic medicine in India for thousands of years for reducing anxiety. And so once your anxiety reduces and you have now melatonin, you can sleep very well. So sometimes people that sleeping, the product that we have, Sleeping Boost, that is sufficient for them to see sound sleep if they have anxiety and depression and are having a problem sleeping. But some people like me, I needed both, combination of both, 2 capsule or 50 milligram of CBD and Sleeping Boost, and I sleep like baby at my 90 years old, almost. Next month I will be 90, but so I sleep very well. So it depends upon individual. I don't have much anxiety, but those people who have much anxiety, they may need some help from CBD plus Sleeping Boost to have a better sleep. And without good sleep, your brain function cannot function, no matter what you do. It is so important. Sleeping is like you mentioned that, sleep is so critical. And again, some other product we have, eye boost, and we can discuss some other time. Sleep heart boost is very important for vasodilation. We have added the product. So there are many products, and the people can, and Jeff knows everything, and you too also knows now everything. And so I think it is just a matter of how we implement these things, how we educate them, that this is important for you. And again, diet is equally important. We don't give up educating people for the diet. But reality is that it has not worked. It is not the fault of the diet or what people are saying it. It is the people don't follow it.
So
Same
we have a
thing,
lot.
same thing is EMF radiation mentioned.
Mhm.
You know, these days nobody mention EMF radiation, but it is very bad. Not only it produces free radicals, but it also, this is the only radiation,
Mhm.
which is man-made EMF radiation, that can oscillates or vibrates charged particles. And in your body, in your brain, many charged particles are there, positively, negatively. And if they are vibrating it, they become very sensitive to damage by free radical or inflammation, much more sensitive than before. And that's why you see the acute syndrome. But acute syndrome disappears as long as you take a micro daily BTMF, because at least a portion of the positive charged particle is disappeared, because the antioxidant donates the electron, and then they subsidize it. And so, as you know, Dr. Coate is extremely sensitive to EMF radiation, but when you take microdaily EMF, he's all calm.
Mhm.
This is
So-
acute. For late effect, you have to take care of, our core 4, but for acute effect, that is sufficient.
Yes. So I think you covered a lot of ground, so we're thankful for that. And the knowledge behind it, the science behind it. So it's reassuring to know, for instance, that CBD, we can understand how it impacts, as you said, neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, glutamate. And so we have choices, we don't only have to rely on harsh meds that can cause side effects. We at Brain Restoration Clinic, we're not opposed to medication, but we think that there's absolutely an over-reliance on meds. So it's good to know that we do have safe options and natural ones that support the body. So we appreciate what you've done in formulating these micronutrients, gut supplements, ones for sleep that we think are safe and natural and give us options to choose. And so I think we should strive to use those in lifestyle and rest and everything. EMF, avoiding too much exposure and protecting ourselves against it.
Try to reduce as much as you can.
Yes, as much as we can. That's exactly right.
But,
Yeah.
still, if you take it, then it's some leftover that you could not follow properly. It will help to maintain your good quality. I just finished a manuscript where I have said this, exactly what we are discussing it, how to address all these cellular defects at the same time to maintain a quality of life during aging and reduce the risk of chronic diseases.
Mhm.
Addressing all points that you mentioned that in your introductory remark, anxiety, depression, fear, and all these things that.
So just one last question. I think you alluded to it, but I just want to make sure it's clear in my mind and that of our listeners. So as far as gut health, and here at the Brain Restoration Clinic, we think a lot about gut and the connection between the gut and the brain.
Yes.
So what role do probiotics actually play, and do they play a role in helping with mental health? And if so,
Yeah, they
how
do,
can they
because it
support?
has been shown in Alzheimer's disease that the intestinal dysbiosis is very high and are producing it. And see, the people don't have paid in the development of all mental disorder. Intestinal dysbiosis is so critical, but nobody has paid attention. And as you know, your Hippocrates has predicted that all human diseases begins in the gut. It is true today, but nobody has paid attention, except we are trying to bring this. There are a lot of publications individually that you see paper in role of intestinal dysbiosis in cancer, or role of collagen in this, but nobody has integrated like we have done it for approach that you can do it. Quality of life, diet, these micronutrients, they are supporting it. And all together, then all the stressor, external or internal, are there. They are taken care of at the same time. Then you are happy. If you take one or two, it will be still some good. Because sometimes cost becomes a limiting factor. And Engage Global has been very nice that they have reduced price of many people so that they can afford it.
So thank you so much, Dr. Prasad. I think you've answered all of our questions. So we appreciate that very much. And of course, we're thinking of the new year. So I think we have
Yeah,
a New Year resolution. We
Yeah,
make a few adjustments here to do well and to be happy and to reduce that anxiety and just to be well. So I think it's attainable.
thank you.
And so, and thank you. So we appreciate that. So I
Same
think
to
with
you.
that said,
To you and to your all engaged family.
that's right. So then, so I'll turn it over to Beth.
All right, I want to thank y'all for doing this call tonight. And also too, I want to remind everybody on the call that CBD buy two, get one free is ending tonight at midnight Mountain Time. So get your CBD specials. They only have this once a year. So, thank y'all for doing this call and we look forward to the future calls with y'all.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.